Hello, I hope you are doing well. My name is Jacqueline Vino from Colossal Learning Solutions, and welcome to this NANO course. Today, we are going to cover the first two accounting standards updates that were issued by the FASB in Q1 of this year, which are ASU 2025-01 and ASU 2025-02. Now, I will say these are both extremely short ASUs. In fact, ASU 2025-01 is quite literally only 9 pages, and ASU 2025-02 is a whole whopping 12 pages. So we are working with two very, very brief standards in this NANO with some, updates for sure, but they are quite minor. So we are going to combine them into one NANO course and go through the background information, the scope, the primary updates, and effective dates of these standards. So let's go ahead and get started by taking a deeper look at ASU 2025-01. As you can see here, ASU 2025-01 was issued back in January of this year, and it has to do with the much larger topic of DICE, or the disaggregation of income statement expenses. DICE, also known as ASU 2024-03, was issued by the FASB back in November of last year. However, since then, the FASB was actually asked to clarify the effective date for public business entities that are non-calendar year-end entities. So in other words, their annual reporting period does not fall on December 31st. Basically, that is exactly what the FASB has done here by issuing ASU 2025-01. They are just trying to clarify the effective date of DICE and also to address some of these concerns that were being received from stakeholders. So let's take a deeper look at DICE, right? Let's talk about this just a little bit more. So the FASB issued ASU 2024-03 on November 4th of 2024, and this actually came as a result of the FASB's 2021 invitation to comment agenda consultation. So this is basically when the FASB said to stakeholders, what would you like us to focus on in the coming years? And one of the categories of respondents were investors, lenders, creditors, and they basically indicated that they had a desire and a need for more detailed disclosures about expenses. So basically with the FASB issuing ASU 2024-03, they are basically trying to do that with the intent of improving some of these disclosures about expenses and being responsive to stakeholder feedback. So ASU 2024-03 was, basically going to require public business entities to provide some more detailed information about their income statement expenses. So they are going to need to disclose information about the specific types of expenses that are included in their expense captions presented on the face of the income statement, as well as some additional disclosures about selling expenses. And they're also going to have to disaggregate out certain expenses such as employee compensation, inventory purchases, depreciation, and also the amortization of intangible assets. So now that we understand some more background information on DICE, why do we need to have this new standard? Why do we need to have ASU 2025-01? Well, basically, if we actually look at the standard of what ASU 2024-03 says, it basically states that the amendments are effective for public business entities for annual reporting periods beginning after December 15th of 2026 and interim reporting periods beginning after December 15th of 2027. So essentially, because of how the effective date guidance was written, a non-calendar year-end entity might have concluded that it would have been required to initially adopt the disclosure requirements in ASU 2024-03 in an interim reporting period rather than an annual reporting period. So in essence, the board was asked to clarify what the initial effective date is supposed to be for these non-calendar year-end entities, and that is what the FASB is doing. So the board does acknowledge that the way it was initially written was a little bit ambiguous, so they just wanted to clarify this just to make sure that all public business entities are on the same page. So that leads us to the scope portion of this discussion. So DICE and ASU 2024-03 is going to be all public business entities are going to be within scope of that. So as you can imagine, similarly, ASU 2025-01 is also only applicable to public business entities. However, it's only probably going to impact the non-calendar year-end public business entities. So this does not apply to any private companies, any nonprofit organizations, and also certain, employee benefit plans as well. So defined pension plans are excluded from this. Defined contribution pension plans are also excluded, and also health and welfare benefit plans also going to be excluded from this. So we're really just talking about those public business entities. And once again, what is the update of ASU 2025-01? It just clarifies the effective date of DICE. So let's take a look at what this new updated effective date is. So basically, all public business entities are required to adopt the guidance in annual reporting periods within annual reporting periods beginning after December 15th of 2027. And of course, early adoption of DICE is also permitted, and I would also encourage that. So basically, they should initially adopt the disclosure requirements in that first annual reporting period beginning after December 15th of 2026, and interim periods within that annual reporting period beginning after December 15th of 2027. So we do have that much clearer effective date now via this new accounting standards update. So moving right along, let's talk a little bit more about ASU 2025-02. And this one is a little interesting in my opinion. So what happened with this was the SEC issued the Staff Accounting Bulletin 122 to rescind a former Staff Accounting Bulletin 121. I know, right? Sounds a little bit confusing, but it's actually pretty interesting. And it does feed into a larger topic of trying to safeguard crypto assets. So let's take a look and give some background information first on Staff Accounting Bulletin 121 that was eventually rescinded. So this was issued back in March of 2022, and it provided some interpretive guidance for entities with obligations to safeguard crypto assets held for platform users, right? So going ahead, you're going to safeguard the crypto assets. And what it required was entities who were safeguarding these crypto assets, they were now required to recognize a liability and a corresponding asset for the fair value of that crypto asset that was being safeguarded, even if the entity did not actually control the crypto assets. So the SEC staff initially issued this to address a lot of just really unique considerations associated with crypto assets, such as the technological risks, the regulatory risks, the legal risks. So they tried to do this as a way of trying to answer some of those questions and address those risks. So now let's talk about why they decided to rescind Staff Accounting Bulletin 121. And what happened was on January 23rd of this year, the SEC went ahead and issued Staff Accounting Bulletin 122, which rescinded all of the interpretive guidance from 121. So once again, 122 got rid of 121. And this decision followed some pretty extensive feedback that was received from stakeholders, including major banks and cryptocurrency firms. And basically the removal of Staff Accounting Bulletin 121, it removes the requirement for these financial institutions to record customer crypto holdings as liabilities on their balance sheet as they were initially required to do. So as you can imagine, this actually does have some pretty significant impact for companies that are involved in safeguarding these digital assets. So, definitely something to be on the lookout for if this applies to you or your clients potentially. So what do we have to do now? What is the update as a result of this? Entities that have an obligation to safeguard crypto assets for others should really determine whether or not to recognize a liability related to the risk of loss under the arrangement. So what they're going to have to do is apply the recognition and measurement guidance for liabilities arising from contingencies in ASC topic 450. So basically, we're going to go ahead and follow that guidance as a result. We're going to try to determine what the risk of loss is and then go from there when it comes to determining whether or not to book this liability. Additionally, entities should include a clear disclosure of the effects of change in this accounting principle. So another thing to keep in mind there. And as you can see here, this screenshot is directly from the mighty 12-page length ASU from ASU 2025-02. As previously stated, Staff Accounting Bulletin 121 was rescinded by 122. And within the guidance, the FASB just went ahead and deleted those sections as a result because they are no longer applicable. And let's just take a look here at the transition and effective date. So entities should effect the rescission of this on a fully retrospective basis in annual periods beginning after December 15th of 2024. So there we have it. That was ASU 2025-01 and ASU 2025-02. Alrighty, well, that's all we have for today. Thank you so much for turning into this NANO course. Once again, my name is Jacqueline Vino from Golasso Learning Solutions, and I really hope you enjoyed this content. And I also hope that I get to see you in the future on a different course. Thank you so much and have a great day.